You're 5 years old. You come home from school with a drawing. It's messy, bright, full of the kind of pride only a child knows. You run to show them, your parent, your caregiver, whoever is supposed to see you, but they don't look up. Maybe they're tired, maybe they're lost in their phone, maybe they're drowning in their own pain. Whatever the reason, they don't see it. They don't see you, and something small inside you breaks. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. So you fold the drawing, tuck it away, and you stop trying. Not all at once, but slowly, over years, you learn the most devastating lesson a child can learn. Your presence doesn't matter. This is the psychology of the neglected child. And if you're watching this, there's a chance you know this feeling. Not from a documentary or a textbook, but from lived experience, from the quiet rooms of your childhood where you learn to disappear. Today, we're going deep into what that does to a person, because the effects don't vanish with age. They follow you, they shape you, and if you don't understand what happened, you'll spend your adult life carrying a grief you can't even name. Let's start with the truth most people won't tell you. Neglect is the invisible wound. There's no bruise to point to, no moment you can circle on a calendar and say, that's when it happened. It's not a single event, it's 1,000 small absences. The parent who never asked how your day was, the birthday they forgot, the achievement they didn't celebrate, the nightmare they didn't comfort, the question they didn't answer. Each moment seems small, forgivable even, but together they build something enormous, a belief system, a way of seeing yourself, and the cruelest part, you can't even explain it to people, because when someone asks, what happened to you? You don't have a story, you have a gap, an emptiness, a feeling of being unseen that you can't quite put into words. So you say, nothing happened, and you start to believe it. You tell yourself, other people had it worse. I had food, shelter, clothes. I should be grateful, but deep down, something still hurts. Because neglect isn't about what you had, it's about what you didn't get. You didn't get to feel important. You didn't get to feel heard. You didn't get the emotional nourishment that every child needs to believe they matter. And when a child doesn't get that, they don't just feel sad, they adapt, they survive, they become invisible. Here's what happens psychologically. When you're consistently ignored, dismissed, or emotionally abandoned, your brain makes a decision. A terrible, intelligent decision. If no one is paying attention to me, I must not be worth paying attention to. This becomes your core belief. Not something you think consciously, but something you feel in your bones. And from that belief, everything else follows. You stop asking for help because you've learnt that no one's coming. You stop sharing your feelings because you've learned that no one cares. You stop taking up space because you've learnt that your presence is a burden. You become the child who doesn't cry, who doesn't complain, who doesn't need anything, and the world praises you for it. You're so independent, you're so low maintenance, you're so easy, but no one stops to ask, at what cost? The cost is this: you learn to abandon yourself before anyone else can. You become an expert at minimizing your own needs, at convincing yourself you're fine when you're falling apart, at performing okayness while drowning inside, and you carry that into adulthood. You become the friend who's always there for everyone, but never asks for support, the partner who overgives and underreceives, the person who apologizes for existing. This is what neglect does. It doesn't make you broken, it makes you invisible to yourself. Now let's talk about what this looks like in adulthood, because neglected children grow up. But the wounds don't heal just because you got older. You might struggle with relationships, not because you don't want connection, but because you don't know how to receive it. Love feels foreign, attention feels uncomfortable, softness feels dangerous, so you push people away, or you cling too tightly, or you stay in relationships where you're undervalued, because at least it's familiar. You might become hyper-independent, the person who refuses help, who would rather suffer alone than admit they need someone, because asking for help feels like weakness, and weakness was never allowed. You might feel numb. Even in happy moments, you can't fully let yourself feel it. Joy feels suspicious. Peace feels temporary. You're always waiting for the other shoe to drop. Or maybe you overfunction. You fill your life with productivity, achievement, busyness. Because stillness feels unbearable. Rest feels like laziness. You've learned that your worth is tied to what you do, not who you are. And the saddest part? You might not even realise you're still stuck in survival mode, because when neglect is normalised early, your nervous system accepts emptiness as baseline. Chaos feels normal. Drama feels familiar. Love without conditions feels like a trap. This is the legacy of the neglected child. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just carrying patterns that once protected you, but are now suffocating you. Let me tell you something important. The neglected child never forgets that feeling. That specific gut-wrenching feeling of being in a room full of people and still feeling completely alone, of having a parent in the house but feeling like an orphan, of celebrating milestones in silence, of crying yourself to sleep and waking up to a world that pretends nothing happened. That feeling doesn't just go away. It becomes a lens, a filter through which you see everything. You walk into a room and immediately scan for danger. You meet someone new and wait for them to leave. You achieve something great and assume no one will care. This is called hypervigilance, and it's exhausting because you're not living in the present. You're stuck in the past, bracing for the neglect you've already survived. Your body is here, but your mind is still in that childhood bedroom, waiting for someone to check on you. And until you go back and rescue that child, you'll keep recreating the same patterns. So what does healing look like? It starts with something most people avoid: witnessing. You have to stop running from the pain and actually turn toward it. You have to acknowledge what happened, not to wallow in it, but to finally validate it. Because for years you've been gaslighting yourself. It wasn't that bad. I turned out fine. I'm overreacting. But you're not fine, and pretending you are is what's keeping you stuck. So you have to sit with the truth, the uncomfortable, devastating truth. You were a child who needed love and you didn't get it. Not because you weren't worthy of it, but because the people who were supposed to give it were too lost in their own pain to see you. That's not your fault. You didn't fail. They did. And until you let yourself grieve that, you'll keep chasing the love you never got in all the wrong places. Here's the part that breaks my heart. The neglected child doesn't just grow up feeling unloved. They grow up not knowing how to be loved. Because love, real love, feels unfamiliar. It feels too good to be true. It feels like a debt you'll have to repay. So when someone shows up for you, genuinely and without conditions, you don't trust it. You wait for the catch. You sabotage it. You push them away before they can leave. Because abandonment is what you know. And on some level, the familiar pain feels safer than the unknown softness. This is why healing is so hard. Because it asks you to do the thing that terrifies you most. Stay. Stay in the discomfort. Stay in the vulnerability. Stay when your instinct is to run. It asks you to let people see you, the real you, the messy, needy, imperfect you that you've spent years hiding, and that's terrifying. But it's also the only way out. Let me tell you what you need to hear. If you're someone who grew up neglected, your independence wasn't a strength, it was survival. Your ability to not need anyone, that wasn't maturity, that was self-protection. Your habit of putting everyone else first, that wasn't kindness, that was a plea to be seen. And it's okay to stop now. It's okay to admit you're tired. It's okay to say you need help. It's okay to stop performing strength and finally let yourself be soft. Because the child in you, the one who learned to be invisible, is still there, still waiting, still hoping that maybe, just maybe, someone will finally notice. And that someone is you. You have to go back and hold that child's hand. You have to tell them what no one else ever said. You didn't deserve that. You were worthy of love. You always have been. This is the beginning of reparenting yourself. Not fixing, not bypassing, but actually turning toward the abandoned parts of yourself and saying, I see you now. I'm not leaving. Here's the truth they don't tell you about healing. It's not linear. It's not pretty. It's not a straight path from broken to whole. Some days you'll feel like you've made progress. Other days you'll feel like that neglected child all over again. And that's okay. Because healing isn't about never feeling the pain again. It's about learning to hold it differently. It's about recognizing when you're reacting from your wound instead of your truth. It's about catching yourself mid-spiral and saying, that's the old story. I don't have to believe it anymore. It's about slowly, painstakingly learning to take up space, to speak your needs, to believe you're worth showing up for. And yes, it's hard. But here's what I want you to know. You're not broken. You're not too much. You're not unlovable. You're just someone who learned to survive in the absence of love. And now, you get to learn something new. You get to learn that you're worth more than what you do, that your presence matters, that you don't have to earn the right to exist. You never had the childhood you deserved, but you still have a future. And this time, you get to write it, not from a place of survival, but from a place of truth, not from a place of fear, but from a place of knowing. You were the neglected child, but you don't have to be the neglected adult. You get to choose differently now, and maybe, for the first time, you get to choose yourself.